mighty Sarlacc. His Excellency hopes that you will die honorably.
So like I was saying, Fett, because I found out that we're missing some of the armor pieces, I couldn't put you all together today, so we're going to have to postpone you, if that's okay.
As you wish.
Oh, and by the way, what do you want me to do with this guy?
Put Captain Solo in the cargo hold.
Well, let me reply with, as you wish. Oh, hey everyone, Scooby-Doo here, and welcome to a brand new video. So if you saw there, I was talking to Fett regarding the armor pieces, because as you know, we were going to start doing the paint tutorial and start putting him together today. But we found out that I'm missing the cod and kidney armor pieces, so I had to order those. Plus I went ahead and ordered some more armor pieces, so those should be coming in 2 to 3 weeks from now. But I'm just going to show you how I at least started doing the painting. This was the original right here, and we went with this color green. And we will do a full tutorial on how a novice paints and weathers armor, and we'll also be posing Fett, and we'll be doing a weathering job on his jumpsuit and his flat jacket and all that other stuff in his helmet. So stay tuned for those videos later. So I guess since we're not going to be putting him together today, we're going to go ahead and work on the katana display slash diorama. I actually already have the shelf in my workshop, aka my kitchen. So let's just go ahead and take a look at the support system that we do use for the shelf. Now in most cases I just use this wood here. It comes with the shelf when I purchase them, and that's just fine, and it will hold up the shelf. But when the shelf gets heavy and it's extra large like this one, we will add these extra support brackets right here, and they will not be seen once I actually put the shelf back up onto the wall. So if you have any questions regarding the actual shelf or how I install them on the wall, feel free to leave a question or comment down below. So now that that's all talked about, let's go ahead and get to the workshop and get started. Alright, so we're all ready to go. Let's first go over some of the supplies I'm going to be using. Obviously the shelf, and I've already put on our Star Wars logo, an acrylic piece. And again, these acrylic pieces, you don't need them for the shelf, I just put them on. I order these from my acrylic guy, and then I've purchased a whole bunch of these Star Wars car sticker logo chrome pieces that I always put on all my shelves. And as far as actual supplies go, I'm using some styrofoam, just leftover stuff from other projects, and some glue from the 99-cent store, some sand, moldacine, some spray paint, and I may even use, well, I will use the hot glue gun just to glue down some of the styrofoam pieces. Not that you need to, but I kind of like to have them kind of secured in place before I put down the moldacine. Note with using hot glue on styrofoam, put very little, because if you put too much, the heat will actually just melt into the styrofoam and makes it useless. So there's all the pieces. We'll set this up. This shelf is so big, it's going to be hard to film everything. So I'll try to edit this and get as much stuff in as possible. First thing I want to do is actually set up a template for where the katana is going, which I've already done. And so I kind of got a layout of where the styrofoam is going to go, and then we're going to mix up some moldacine. Now this is the exact same thing I did with my Hoth diorama. I set up the AT first to see where all his feet were going to go and the turrets and everything. And once I establish that, then I start with the base. So let's go ahead and hot glue the styrofoam in and make up some moldacine. Alright, the styrofoam has been glued down, and now we're going to mix up some moldacine. Which, if you haven't seen it before, it's just a pre-made up mixture that you can order. And you just put a bunch in. You're supposed to measure it, but I've been working with it long enough, I know how much to use. And we'll probably do this in a couple of sections, because this is a lot of moldacine to use, and it doesn't dry completely for hours, but it starts to harden a little bit after a minute or two. So I'm going to do it in sections, so I don't have part of this over there hardening and then I'm still putting on stuff over there. Also too, I forgot to mention on supplies, I'm also using this brush. It's my handy brush. I use this for everything. I use this for my weathering, and I use this to apply the glue. And she's been with me for a very long time. So let's go ahead and add some water to this And we'll go ahead and put down some of the moldacine. Alright, now that I got my moldacine ready, I'm just going to start putting the moldacine down. Now for this particular display, I'm not going to use a lot of moldacine. I'm just actually going to be using it on the edges. I'm not really going to be doing it on the actual base like in this area, because it's not going to be seen. I just kind of want to make this area in here, and then I also want to make a couple of higher dunes right here in this area. Hopefully this is coming out. Is it in the camera? Nope. Let me just shift this a little bit. God, this shelf is so big. There we go. I'm going to just put some down on the styrofoam to make a dune. And the really cool stuff about this moldacine is that, again, like after a couple of minutes, it'll start to harden, but you can still reform it, kind of like clay. And again, you can see I didn't really get that much down, but we're really not going to be putting much more other than maybe 2 more bowls full. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pick the camera up. You see how we start to cover the styrofoam. As this starts to thicken, I'll be able to start putting this out more. And I really don't want to go any higher than the styrofoam, so I'm not going to make it that much higher than the actual styrofoam that was on the actual shelf. Go ahead and get that started. And then over here too, you can see how I just did the edges. So actually, I'm just going to kind of put it up against the edge. And we're going to contour it. And again, I'll be able to contour it more once this starts to harden. Alright, so we're back. I went ahead and put down the rest of the moldacine. It's all in place. Also, too, I put the katana, which is over there, I replaced it one more time to make sure everything was good. Now we're going to go in and remold everything and clean everything up, because you can see everything is pretty rough. Now if you were making a rock formation or something, you might want to leave it like that, but since we're doing sand dunes, we want kind of a really smooth surface to put down all of our sand. So now for actually smoothing it out, and this has been drying now for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or less. Get that set. We're going to go back in here and smooth this out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water. I actually have a cup right here. I'm just going to put some water down. This will kind of reactivate the moldacine. And you lightly want to start using your finger. And you've seen me do this lots of different times. You want to start smoothing all this out. Now this will take a little bit of time, only because I try to do all this in one shot, which I really shouldn't have done. I should have just done a section at a time, but I wanted to get this all done today. But I'm just going to keep going in here until I get everything smooth. And I'm going to hold this up really quickly, like over here. See how rough that is. Add some water. And just start rubbing my finger over it. And I'll start smoothing out. See, some of this stuff is, there we go. Mesmerizing. So you can see here it's already starting to get smoother, opposed to this over here that was rougher. And I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to clean up these edges so they're really nice and smooth on the edge as well. And then you'll see here what I did on the logo. I kind of built up and had some of the sand coming over it. Kind of give it a really cool effect. So I'm going to work on this. It's probably going to take me like 20 minutes, and then we'll come back and start the next part of this project. One more thing I wanted to show you really quickly. As this starts to harden, and you can see I'm starting to smooth it out, you can see how I'm getting the edges nice and clean. Opposed to this side over here, you just use a sponge, get a little bit of hot water, and you just come right along the edge and smooth it all out. Okay, on to our next section. I got everything cleaned up. The moldacine is starting to dry. First, always keep a nice clean workstation. I'm sure your wife would appreciate it, your girlfriend, or your parents, roommates, whoever. So keep everything clean. When working with the moldacine, once you're finished with using the utensils or whatever you use to mix it up, clean that outside. Do not pour that stuff down your sink. Just don't do it. So now on to the next part. I would generally probably let this sit for a day or two before I started the next part, but I'm trying to get all this done in a day. So I can always allow this to dry actually up on the wall after the fact. And yeah, so let it dry for a day or two. Don't be in a time crunch like I am. But what we're going to do next is we're going to add the glue, which is right here, onto all of the moldacine. And we're going to do that just by squirting it on. Now also too, if you noticed, I didn't really clean up this area. I just kind of used a sponge because sand is going on all of this. So yeah, that's as good as it needs to be. But you can see here and how a lot of it's starting to really smooth out. And now we'll just go ahead and apply the glue. Get a good camera angle here. So with doing the glue, we're just going to squirt it down. And I'll just show you really quickly. We're going to use a brush. And I'm just going to kind of paint on the glue. And I'm also going to do this on the styrofoam as well. I'll probably tilt the shelf up to get this area right here. But I'm going to put the glue on here when I do the sand on it. So we'll do this area. This is a really easy way to apply the sand. And you can be a little bit messy because I can come back in with the sponge and clean that up. But once we get this all on, we're going to go ahead and put some of the sand on. I'm not going to show myself doing this whole thing. I'm just going to do this section and then go in and finish the rest. So and here's our sand. This is just regular sand I got at Lowe's hardware store. I got 5 pounds of it and I've had it for years, so it's nice and clean. I'm not going to go steal any at a park or anything like that. I'm just going to put it down and just let it dry. It's as simple as that. The sand is pretty much glued on. It's gonna probably take another hour or two for it to completely set. But again, because of time restraints, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next section, which will be painting the sand. And we're gonna use the Humbrol paint. It's number 63. It's like a 63 gold sand, or I believe it's called. Oh, get right there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this outside. I'm going to spray paint it and then I'm going to let it sit in the sun so it dries a little bit faster. And then we can finish up actually on the display itself. Alright, so the spray painting is finished. It took about 5 minutes to do. Now we're going to go ahead and let this dry. Now I also added some highlights of white spray paint. And I can always go back in here and mess around with it a little bit. But again, we're going to let this now dry. And then we'll add the katana and we will wrap up this video. Alright, never say never done. I let the paint dry for actually about an hour. Then I decided to put the shelf up onto the wall just to make sure everything looked how I wanted it to look. And I kind of wanted to give it a little bit more dimension, so I took it down and I just added some more moldacine, styrofoam, glue, and sand. As you can see, I built up a couple other areas. And once this dries for a little bit, we'll spray paint it. Then let that dry and then get up onto the wall, and then we'll take a final look at it. So this actually shows that you know, the moldacine, you can keep adding to it if you don't like what you did the first time. Alright, so we got it all finished today. Here's our katana Jabba Barge base diorama. And you can see how it kind of matches the Fett display. Now we're going to be adding some other shelves in upcoming videos, which will kind of tie in the sand as well. But I think it came out pretty good for a one-day job. Now also too, the sand will lighten up a little bit more as the moldacine dries. And we will have a really nice looking display wall once this is all finished. So if you have any questions or comments regarding today's video, feel free to leave them down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. And look for the other Fett videos coming out as well real soon. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. And I shall talk to you guys later.